Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. And my next guest is a beloved icon from television, film, and so much more. The one and only Gary Frank is here on the show, Emmy-winning actor, author, and just a great guy. And of course, you remember him from this beloved series, Family, the Aaron Spelling series, family drama from the 1970s, early 80s on ABC with everybody, Meredith Baxter, Bernie, and Sada Thompson, and James Broderick, and Kristy McNichol, and of course, Quinn Cummings. So many great episodes. That is one of my, as we've talked about a lot here on the Jim Masters Show, that is one of my personal favorite television series of all time. So beautifully written, so beautifully shot there in Pasadena, California. Matter of fact, when I was on a TV shoot professionally working in television radio, I made sure with the rental car we had when we were in LA filming before we flew back east to the New York area, that I got in the car and we found that house where they filmed the exterior shots for Family, which was beautiful. We had to see that house, and we had to see the house that was being remodeled for the Brady Bunch, which was another terrific feat of incredible endeavor that HGTV had done, which was another great one too. But our special guest is joining us here not only to talk about, of course, the wonderful things you remember from Family, but he was in a lot of other TV series as well. And he was on television before Family came knocking on his door. He also has a wonderful memoir that he has written that's coming out very, very soon. So we're sort of getting like an exclusive here to have an opportunity to talk with him about it. He's very open and revealing, and he shares so much. But of course, those years on Family, he touched our hearts and souls with those dramatic and sometimes comedic storylines as well, with the extraordinary cast, all individually talented. And it really was like a family, wasn't it, everybody? When you watched that series, you really felt that you were watching maybe even your own life, elements of your own life coming before you. So beautifully acted, and some great guest stars that they would have on the series as well. And again, backed by the incredible writers and producers, Mike Nichols, of course. And again, Aaron Spelling pretty much had everything locked up in the 1970s when it came to television. Before that, in 74, Gary Frank starred on Sons and Daughters as well, which was another terrific series. And again, he's been with us in such an incredible way through television, through his art, and so many experiences. Family, of course, a big part of his life, and the cast did stay together. There was even talk of bringing them back and a reunion. That there was always a hope for that at times, which would have, of course, been spectacular. But in addition to that, I don't know if you knew that he was also in a lot of other fantastic things. Like this was great too, Enemy Territory. There he is with Ray Parker Jr. This is around 87. And Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Gary Frank was in that as well. And Hill Street Blues. And of course, he met I believe on set with Family, if not before, his wonderful wife, Carol Newman, of course. And she was involved in the series Family, heavily involved in the series. And you may remember she joined us when we had Gary and Elaine Heivel, who played the original Nancy on the series. And they were terrific. We had some great conversation, but we wanted to have Gary back because Gary's had such a wonderful experience, and he's such a great guy to chat with. You know what I mean? He's so open, and he's the real deal. He's authentic. He's been on a lot of great shows and series, as I mentioned, the film Deadly Weapon. He starred in 3 episodes of Remington Steele, as well as episodes of The Streets of San Francisco. Yeah, Michael Douglas and company. T.J. Hooker, he was on Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, Hunter, Magnum P.I., Murder, She Wrote, L.A. Law, Hill Street Blues, Friday the 13th, the series. As I mentioned, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He played a wonderful role of Major Thomas Herby in the film Enola Gay, The Men, the Mission, and the Atomic Bomb. He also co-starred in the TV Christmas film The Gift opposite Glenn Ford. He also appeared in 2 episodes of Matlock as well. So again, if you look back at his career, he's done a lot, and he's enjoyed the ride. But of course, there's the original cast of Family. There you see Elaine Hyvel, who was the original Nancy, but also you see John Rubinstein there too as well, who wrote the theme to Family, which was a beloved theme. When you heard that music, you knew that something special was coming on. Gary Frank again here on our show. They graced the covers of TV Guide. Would you believe I actually have this TV Guide in the collection? Sure do. They were on all the TV guides. They really, really had a wonderful rapport, and you could tell that it really was a family on that series. So Gary is here. Just wanted to take you a little bit down memory lane with the wonderful photos and just sort of bringing back those great memories. And he has so much more to share as he has penned the book. And let me show you, they're still working on the cover. But of all the photos that he could have selected to put on the cover of his memoir, his autobiography, take a look at the one he's picked. You know, of course, he played guitar as a musician as well. You may remember this. This was in the opening shot of the series Family and framed on the piano next to the rest of the family. This is an actual preview of what the cover of the book, without the graphics, of course, going to look like. And it's something quite special. So that's coming out real soon, and we're really, really excited about that. But before we welcome him on the show, take you down memory lane one more time, and we've got to have a proper intro for him other than this illustrious intro I just gave. Take a look at this, and then our special guest, Gary Frank, is right here on the Jim Masters Show. Enjoy. And here he is, from the piano top to the Jim Masters Show. Gary Frank, welcome back to the Jim Masters Show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, and happy holidays to you and Carol and your family. How are you? And did you wrap all the presents? Is everything going smoothly for you there in California?
There is Christmas chaos in this house. I have not really begun to do things, and it's at the last minute, but it'll all get done. My wife is very good at this. She's a Christmas carol, and she decorates the house and she wraps everything, so I can just sort of sit back, and
Right.
and watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, enjoy the lights. I especially like the lights at Christmas time.
We need the holidays, right? In the holiday spirit for sure. Have you always been into the holidays? Is that something you've always looked forward to, Gary?
Well, to be honest with you, Jim, there was a long time in my life when I really didn't look forward to these holidays at all. They were dark for me. And I believe they're dark for a lot of folks with certain challenges, and I had a lot of challenges for a long time. But I would look, that I couldn't enjoy people. I couldn't enjoy myself. I couldn't enjoy the frivolity and the celebrations of Christmas and New Year's and also Thanksgiving. These were just not the best days for me. Now I look forward to them every year. I cook on Thanksgiving. We have the family over for all the holidays. That would be my nephew, his wife, and their 3 daughters, who we consider to be our grandchildren. And they consider us to be their grandparents. We're so close, so tight with all of them. And that's our immediate family. And those are the folks that we have our holidays with, particularly Christmas. We were just making plans earlier today about whose house we were going to be at for Christmas Eve and where we were going to spend Christmas Day. And I stay out of that stuff. I just go where they point me. But now I love the holidays. I look forward to Christmas and the cheer that it brings. And I look forward to New Year's too, because that's a fresh beginning. That's a fresh start for all of us. And I like that. I like new beginnings. And that's why, in a way, I put that photograph on the cover of my book. It was a return to the beginning for me. One of my beginnings in any case, but this was a very important beginning. The beginning of my life with the Lawrence family, as a part of the Lawrence family, my life with my wife, Carol, whom I met on the show. It's a beginning that I cherish and treasure and always will. So that's the significance of that particular photograph. I'm talking too much, forgive me.
No, it's fantastic. I've always liked that photograph because even when some of the other photographs of the other cast members, James and Sada and Kristy and Meredith, would change, they kept yours running. There was just something about that photo that really was you, but also reflected the personality of Willie Lawrence, deep thinker, creative, humble. It was such a perfect, characterization, capturing the essence of Willie Lawrence, but also that's you as you, isn't it? That's how you felt. That's how the way that you looked at life as seen in that fantastic photo on the show and now the cover of your book.
At that time, it certainly was the way I was. I was very much a serious actor, having studied with Lee Strasberg, and before him, wonderful, wonderful woman and her husband by the name of Peggy Fury, and her husband was Bill Traylor. Fabulous woman, and that man was just so important in my life. And those two folks actually are responsible for a number of wonderful actors, Sean Penn being one of them, and Nick Cage being another, who both studied with Peggy Fury. But I was very much a serious guy, serious about my work, serious about the seriousness of the kind of work that I was doing, the parts that I was getting. As you mentioned, I did a series before Family called Sons and Daughters, and I was very intense in that show, as I recall. And I carried that over a bit into Family with Willie, and Willie's intensity and his drive and ambition to become a successful writer, the way he quit school with a certain goal in mind, a goal and drive in his life. And those are important, serious things, and they are intense. So indeed, I met my match with that particular character. I was that guy, and in many ways, I still am that guy too.
Where does that come from? Where do you feel that intensity, the seriousness comes from? Was that the family dynamic, or was that just you really taking it all to heart and wanting to do the best that you could? What do you think the intensity and seriousness came from, the inspiration for that. It matched beautifully with the role of Willie, though there were times also with Willie where you were playful, you were funny, you had this wonderful relationship with Sada, Kate Lawrence, your mom on the show, Kristy McNichol, your sister. There was a wonderful bond there as well. Amazing episodes about father-son relationships with you and Doug Lawrence. Your father, of course, played by the incredible James Broderick, who's still missed to this day. Still remembering that episode where he was tough on you about you wanting to be a writer and the typewriter upstairs in your bedroom, and then you forgot to lock the back door, and somebody got in the house, and the milk was spilled, and the cat runs out, and the serious music, and Mom and Kristy come running in, and he blames you. Who locked the door? Some amazing dynamics that you are so good at capturing, and everybody around you, that so many people can relate to in their everyday lives. So for you, the intensity works so beautifully on that series and really everything else you've done. But where did it derive from?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jim. It came from my own childhood. I grew up in quite a dysfunctional family culture, and it was intense and it was serious, and I managed to survive it, but I carried that intensity for a long, long time, and it manifested itself in later years as anger, and I didn't understand it. I was angry, I was intense, and it wasn't healthy for me to be that way at all. It ultimately led to some terrible trouble for me, but I had to lose that intensity that you speak of in order to be a real person. So it came from my family, my father, particularly my mother, and my brother. We were West Coast gypsies over here. We would move every couple of years, so there wasn't an opportunity to make lasting friendships, because every time that happens or began to happen, we would move again. My father always looking for the next best job, and
What did he do for a living? What were the parents' careers?
he was a salesman. My mother was a housewife, and my brother is 6 years older than I am, and so he took a lot of the abuse that my father would heap on us, and because I was the baby, I took the leftovers. But there was plenty to go around for all of us. My father was a salesman. He sold primarily televisions, and he was never happy in any one job or another. And I believe he got fired quite a number of times, but he wasn't a very affectionate man. He had a terrible temper as well, and I inherited that. My brother did too, but I needed to break the chain of that particular culture, and I didn't do it really truly until I was in my late 60s. I'm 75 now, but that intensity fueled and fed it informed my performing for a lot of years. I wasn't an angry young man on Family, but I was an intense young man, and it all came from my childhood. I'm sorry to say it did, though.
You know, it was interesting because there was the intensity, which was a perfect contrast to some of the other cast, although the show itself, Family, had an intensity to it, had a warmth, had a loving nature, but there was an intensity to the storylines and some of the scenarios. But there were elements where you could see in your performance, like there's an intense moment with Doug, your dad, played by James Broderick, some really incredible, intense moments. But you could also pick up on, underneath that intensity, the warmth, the calling out that Willie, or in this case, Willie/Gary, was looking for, because you had moments where there were some tender moments on the show with cast and others that came through and almost superseded the intensity. So you expected the intensity, but then you were able to somehow open up and share a vulnerability that Willie had beautifully on the series, which was Gary more than likely revealing himself through Willie in certain aspects, which I think was a very beautiful thing you've been able to do. Like, for example, one of my favorite episodes, and there's many, was how you handled the passing of your grandmother, Hattie, and how you really took to heart after going to the antique store and the Chinese lunch with Kristy McNichol with Buddy, the fact that the news was coming that this beloved grandmother was going to pass. And the way that you handled it, and the way that Sada Thompson, Kate Lawrence handled it, was she had a little different relationship with Hattie. You had this loving relationship. She's going to leave you the farm. That scene with you and Mildred Natwick on, you're sitting curled up on the bed. She comes in the room, gives you the blanket with Willie Lawrence on it. I've watched that multiple times, and you cannot get through that without a box of Kleenex. It is the way the music comes in, the camera angles, the curtain is blowing in the bedroom. She comes in. You were incredible in that, and you were incredible throughout that episode. And that opened up a vulnerability for Gary and for Willie that people plugged into. Here's the intense Willie, but here's a moment where something's happening in his life that happens to all of us, and all of you on that episode, but you specifically, the way you handled the loss of your grandmother, which was unacceptable to you. This just doesn't happen. How could she go? And Sada Thompson's performance was brilliant too, was very touching. As stern as maybe you felt you were, there was a warmth and vulnerability that you showed, which touched a lot of people, Gary.
Thank you very much, Jim. Those are very nice words. I appreciate that very much. You know, I once had a conversation with Mike Nichols, who was one of our executive producers on the show. And we were talking about casting and so forth. And I asked why he cast me, and he had a lot to say about that. And one of the things he said was, I like to cast actors who need the same thing that the character does. I thought, well, I don't know what that means. And I said, how could you know that I need the same things that Willie Lawrence needs? And he said, well, when you get to be my age, you just know. And I thought, well, okay, that's the answer. But what I needed, and this is in reference to this last stuff I was talking about, I needed a normal family. I needed normal parents, and I needed siblings that I could cherish and love, and who would love me back. And I needed a grandmother. I needed a grandparent. I didn't have anyone that I was close to in that way. I needed Hattie. I needed Mildred Natwick. I needed her to comfort me and to make me weep. I'll weep now. But and you asked me earlier about how I related and how I was with my character, and I inhabited the persona of Willie Lawrence, and inside I was Gary Frank, this intense, sensitive human being. And I say sensitive, I don't mean that in a bragging or boastful way. I got hurt a lot as a kid, and that made me sensitive to all kinds of things as I grew older. And I was a sensitive guy while we were making family, while we were shooting family. Willie was a sensitive, intense, vulnerable guy. Gary Frank was a sensitive, intense, vulnerable guy. it just worked out that way. So everything that you saw Willie Lawrence do was what Gary Franken needed to do, and I did. And I'll never forget having that family. Of course, they meant the world to me, and still do, really, truly.
Oh, yeah.
They still, and you talk about James Broderick, and working with him. He and I had a scene once in my bedroom, and I was sitting on the end of the bed, and he was talking to me. And I can't remember, I couldn't tell you exactly what he was saying,
And I
except,
think it's the photo we're showing right now too.
well, it could be. He
Yeah.
was blind in this particular two-part episode.
Oh, remember that one?
Yes,
Yes.
he'd lost his sight.
Wait, I'm asking you if you remember that one? You were there.
I remember this scene for sure. And he was telling me about how proud he was of me, of Willie. And I started to weep. And I couldn't let him know that I was weeping. Let him, the character, know that Doug Lawrence, know that I was weeping. And I remember the scene ended, the day's work ended, and I was still weeping, and I wept all the way home to my wife. And she asked me why, what happened? And I just said, my father loves me. That was it. That was all it took. My father telling me that he loved me and cherished me and respected me.
Mhm.
I never got that. I never had that in my real life, in my personal life. My father telling me that. So James Broderick was so important in my life. I think I've mentioned that before with you. He was so integral and so meaningful to me. I miss him to this day. I miss Sadie to
Yes.
this day.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I remember seeing and hearing when she passed, and, we're here in the New York, Connecticut, New Jersey area, and she was just lived up the road. She was in Southbury, Connecticut with her husband, and when I had heard the news, I even know people that work in the hospital where she passed in Danbury, Connecticut. It was, very tough, and James, of course, passed way too early, and there was talk of bringing the series back in a reunion sort of way, right, Gary? I know you were on the
Yeah.
forefront of wanting that to happen, and how beautiful that would have been.
Yes, there was a reunion show planned. Unfortunately, it never came to fruition. It never gelled. Uh, Meredith was off doing something else, or some things else, and Kristy was as well. Uh, I was doing a movie at the time, and James had passed. Unfortunately, had passed, and the story revolved around him having passed away and Kate remarrying. And it never came to be, unfortunately. And it's too bad that we weren't able to provide closure for the show, because we were canceled mid-season in 1980, and we never had an opportunity to really end the show with dignity and respect. It just, boom, ended. And that wasn't fair, I don't think, to our audience. It certainly wasn't fair to us, the cast. And we were just unceremoniously dropped.
If you were to write the beautiful ending, the dream ending, that last episode of Family, what would you have envisioned that episode would have been in the case of James, Doug, Lawrence still being a part of it, and capping off the original series? What in your mind would have been that dream ending? Would it be Kristy McNichol's wedding or something? What would it be for you?
Well, that's a good question, and I haven't thought about it in a long time. But we were never a typical show about. We were never Father Knows Best. We didn't have happy endings to every single episode. And so I would imagine that that would be true of two of the final episode. Excuse me. There was no truly happy ending, but there was a closure, as I mentioned before. Kristy, I would hope her character, Buddy, would go off to college. Meredith, I would hope, would either get back together with Jeff, her estranged husband, or find someone new, find happiness that way. Quinn Cummings had joined the cast at that time, and I would hope that she finally felt accepted by the Lawrence family, finally felt that she was a part of everyone and that everyone was a part of her. Jim and Sada, their story continued. They were just wonderful parents. They would continue to be wonderful parents and wonderful individuals, wonderful human beings, and and that would be what their life was about. And as for me, there were a number of different things that I could have done. I could have finally sold something that I wrote. I could have finally just settled down with one particular lady rather than all the different women that Willie seemed to be fond of and dated and went through. And I would hope that he found a way not to be as intense as he was, not as angry as he was inside. And he wasn't angry at his parents the way that I was, but perhaps angry at the world for not recognizing his brilliance, until he finally would sell something. I would hope that he did find someone to love, though, because it's always important to love someone and be loved by someone else, aside from the family.
You had some wonderful people who were people that you fell in love with on that series, and the wedding episode, and then the passing, and you. What an extraordinary performance you gave when you were at the beach, and the time had come, and she had passed, and I don't want to give it all away in case people actually never saw the series, but that was, it felt so, talk about intensity when you went to the beach and you were just finally really grieving the loss of what became the love of your life and this beautiful person and the wedding and everything. And the family loved her, and she passes, and you have to deal with that. And you're a young guy on the series. So all of these passings, the grandmother and the wife, it's all fresh. But the way you handle it at the beach, it went beyond an actor acting a role. It went beyond just Willie. You were really intense, very emotional. It was extraordinary. It was an incredible, incredible performance. And I would imagine as you were there, if anybody sees that scene, you were letting out a lot of things while you were letting out the grief of the passing of your wife on that show.
Yes, I remember that scene that night vividly. You know, a film company is really a community unto itself. There are people who care about each other. There is someone who feeds you. There is someone who takes care of you medically. There is somebody who provides you with the lines that you're meant to say. It really is a community unto itself. Now, that particular night, we spent the entire night at a place called Paradise Cove in Malibu here in Los Angeles. And the beach was deserted, absolutely deserted. No one there except us. And we were this city, this community, and we had taken over the beach there. And when you drive on a studio lot, there's a certain, for me anyway, there's a certain magic that happens. You leave one world and you enter another, much like leaving the sidewalk and walking into a movie theater. You left your life on the outside and you go in and you're taken away by the movie that you see. Or for that matter, even, and I do this a lot and have done it a lot in my life, go from the street into a church and leaving myself behind and entering this wonderful place of worship. Well, that night on the beach, it was that wonderful place of worship. We uh, we took over the beach. It was dark except for the lights that we set up. It was quiet except for the sounds that we made. It was lonely save for the people that we were with, and it was a dark sky, and the waves were crashing. And all I had to do was sit on the sand and feel things. Uh, that can be a blue collar job sometimes. It was in order to feel the things that you're meant to feel and communicate. Well, I sat on that sand and I lit off those fireworks, and I was absolutely consumed in the throes of having lost someone who meant the world to me, much like Hattie. But in this case, it was my wife. And I had to imagine what that would be like. And I also felt what it was like. I was married. I would never be able to live if my wife had somehow left in that manner, the way that Lizzie did, my wife. I projected that. I I was alone on the beach, and I felt alone in the world with her having left me. I was unconsolable, and I spent the night really crying. I wept the entire night, sitting on the sand, thinking of her. And Brooke Adams was magnificent. She had been just this magnificent actress. Excuse me, and wife, playing Lizzie, my wife. And I thought of her, and the fact that she was not coming back to join us because she'd already wrapped her work in the show. And it all came together for me that night. It all happened there, and I felt all those things and more. And funny how you can sit and put yourself into a mood, how you can put yourself into another place, another time, and tap into those feelings that you had when you were in that other place at that other time. There was joy in the evening there too, remembering the wedding, remembering the love that existed between Willie and Lizzie. It was very bittersweet, melancholy, tragic, and tough to live through. That was an evening that was, in terms of emotional investment, it was a tough one because there was so much. It was such a huge investment for me. Now I'm telling you all these things and giving away what happens when you see somebody working, and the trick is not to show anyone that you are working as an actor. But that's what that night was like. We were alone, the film company, on this beach. The sky was lit up with the fireworks. My heart had been broken, and the crew sobbed as well, not because of me, but because of the moment that this whole scene represented. In terms of the character growth, I think Willie grew tremendously in that night, that evening. I know Gary Frank did. And there was a great deal of investment. I can just say that, emotionally, spiritually, and physically as well. Because there was a feeling of loss that you feel in your bones. So
It was beautifully written, beautifully shot. I mean, the selection of music, the music underscoring on Family was so terrific. Always different elements of the original theme, which was a fantastic theme. Although in the beginning, the series was a little bit more brooding, I think. The theme song was a little bit slower, beautiful. And then, of course, that was in the beginning when it was sort of like the mini series, and then it gets picked up as an actual series in ABC, and they sort of speed up the theme a little bit, and maybe some of the movement for it being a series, still keeping intact the beauty and original nature. But it was a little bit more even intense in those earlier episodes, right?
Yes, indeed. I preferred that first version, that slow, moody kind of a feeling that that first version of the theme gave you. John wrote that, of course, and he what he did in that instance was he assigned each one of us in the cast a particular musical instrument and used them in the score, in the theme song, and the theme music. And I thought that was just a wonderful idea, and he did that so well with that. And then the network and the executive producers wanted something a little lighter, a little brighter, and so John went back in and rewrote the theme. But I preferred that first one. It was, as you said, it was intense. It was serious, and it was indicative of the kind of show that we originally began to film. Certainly, from the pilot, when serious stuff in the pilot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. And John, of course, who we're talking about, who wrote the theme, played Jeff Maitland, Nancy's, and there's the original played by Elaine Hivel, who we had on the show with Gary and with Gary's wife, Carol Newman, and it was terrific. And then people ask, they were so happy to see Elaine with us, because they'd wonder what happened to Elaine, what has she done since? And so they remember her as the original Nancy. And then, of course, Meredith Baxter Burney at the time was cast in the series with all of you. And people wanted to know what it was like also working with Meredith as the new Nancy.
Meredith was wonderful. She came into a very difficult situation, taking over for another actress.
Yeah.
She was nervous. She was not sure if she'd fit in. She wasn't sure if she would even fit in with the cast. If all of us were so tight, the cast members, all of us were very close. And so she was nervous until one day she came, and we were, myself, Sada, and Jimmy and Kristy, we were all sitting in our chairs waiting for the next setup. And Meredith came over, and Jimmy Broderick pointed to a door way up in the catwalk, and he said, "You know what's there?" And Meredith said, "No, what?" He says, "That's where we keep all the Nancys." She broke up, and from that point on, she felt okay about being part of the Lawrence family because of Jimmy saying that there's where we keep all the Nancys.
All the Nancys are up there.
Yes, because we had actually, after Elaine, we had cast another wonderful actress whose name escapes me at the moment, but she didn't fit in. And we made the change to Meredith. And so there were a number of Nancys to be held hostage up there off the catwalk. So, what was that actress's name? She was so nice, so good.
And Meredith came from quite a background too, with her mother, Whitney Blake, who was on Hazel and a lot of other great shows and productions as well. And so you mentioned before even Family, the opportunity to be on Sons and Daughters. That was back in '74, which was so hard to believe. How did that opportunity come your way?
Okay. Well, this is one of those times that was really magical. I was studying with Peggy Fury and Bill Traylor and Lee Strasberg. And I had gotten an agent, a commercials agent, but I didn't want to do commercials. I was too intense for commercials. So,
Buy that car now.
yes, that's right. Yeah. Uh, so I got an opportunity to go to Universal Studios and read for a wonderful casting director by the name of Reuben Cannon. And Reuben kind of liked me. And so he had me back for a callback. And I went and I read again. He liked me again. And he had me back for another callback where I read for the producers of the show. The producer, a wonderful man named David Levinson. And the director was there too. And who would the director be but Richard Donner? Dick Donner went on to great success as a feature director. And I read with them, for them, and I read with a wonderful actress who didn't get the final job, didn't get the job, but I read with this wonderful actress. And so they liked me enough to say, okay, Gary, we want to screen test you. Now, screen tests were something foreign to me. I didn't think they still did them. But indeed, they were going to screen test me along with a young actress by the name of Glynis O'Connor, fabulous actress. So she and I did this. We screen tested for the show. And lo and behold, we both got cast. And I didn't know that I was going to be cast until David Levinson gave me a call at home and said, congratulations, Gary. You're Jeff Reed, my character's name in the show. I was over the moon, Jim. I was so ecstatic. I hung up the phone and screamed. I was so, it was just the best thing. I had gone from being a student, and you know what? I had a part-time job sweeping the streets at Universal when I went up for this pilot called senior year. And I was sweeping the streets of the back lot where the tours would go through. So I went from a student of Lee Strasberg's and sweeping the streets at Universal to becoming a contract player in a television series at Universal. Just overnight. It literally was overnight. So I gave my notice to Universal on one hand, and I signed a contract with the other. So it was magical, really magical. That's how I got that job. And again, with Glynis O'Connor playing opposite me, and we had wonderful other actors on the show too. Scott Columbia was one of them. Deborah Lee Scott, who's no longer with us, was another one. Just this wonderful big cast, and we got along famously. But then it only lasted 9 episodes, unfortunately, as things happen in this business, in this world. 9 episodes were all we did, and we parted ways, all of us. And but I remember it so vividly and so beautifully. It was my first big job, and I'll treasure it forever. Forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had opportunity to sort of create, even for that short period of time, the family feeling, and it was a wonderful drama. It was on CBS in 1974, and about young people in a changing society, and it was really something special. Also working with somebody like a Glenn Ford in The Gift back in 1979. And somehow this came on TV or one of the channels, and we watched it again. It aired not that long ago, I think in the springtime. And I remember seeing it beforehand. Phenomenal performance in this. What was it like working with him and everybody in The Gift? If everybody gets a chance to see this, if it, is on a nostalgic channel or something, watch it. It's really terrific.
Well, I had grown up watching Glenn Ford in the movies.
Yeah.
I loved him, seeing him in westerns, and of course in Blackboard Jungle. He was so good in. I've left the frame. I'm sorry. And westerns with William Holden. So I was really looking forward to working with Glenn. And to top it all off, Jim, I was going to work with Julie Harris, play my mother. Julie Harris was the epitome of what an actress should be, along with Sada Thompson. I had the great good fortune of having wonderful screen mothers, and Julie Harris proved to be that one of those wonderful mothers. And Glenn, talk about intense. Glenn was very intense on and off camera. He played an Irishman with a penchant for the bottle, and he Glenn got into that character like nobody's business, and he befriended me. He liked me a lot, thank God. But he was wonderful to work with, and Julie was wonderful to work with. And lo and behold, who should play my little brother in his first big role but Kevin Bacon? Kevin Bacon was in that movie as well, playing, I can't remember the character's name, but he was there. And so it was this wonderful stew of good actors, Glenn Ford and Julie Harris and Kevin Bacon. And we all got along famously. And we shot in Brooklyn, beautiful Brooklyn. I loved shooting in Brooklyn. What wonderful people, what warm, terrific people they were. And then we shot at Paramount Studios again after we had finished with our stuff in Brooklyn. And once again, it was driving on to that lot, Paramount lot, was magical, leaving one world behind and entering into another wonderful world, a magical world. Just like driving from my house to 20th Century Fox Studios to shoot Family. Paramount Studios, I had never worked there before. And so it was a dream come true to work with all these magnificent people, to work on this magnificent studio lot, and in these great sets that they built, and in this fabulous story that Pete Hamill, the wonderful New York journalist whose life was, this movie was based on. It was a dream come true, and I wanted that part so desperately. I had read for them. I didn't get the part, and I was heartbroken. And then while we were shooting Family one evening, I got a call, and they said, "Listen, Gary, the actor that we wanted for this part, or they didn't say wanted, but they said that we cast for this part has fallen out, and we'd like you to play Pete Devlin," my character's name. And I thought, well, yes, I'd love to do that. The actor who fell out was a brilliant actor by the name of John Savage. So I felt privileged to have this part, and fortunate that John Savage decided not to do the picture. It was just a magnificent experience for me.
Oh, yeah. Do you think they saw your work on Family and then reconsidered? They said, "Look how good he is working with these talented actors and actresses. This guy's really good. We got to bring him in."
I hope so. I think so. I think that's why I was brought in the first place. They saw a lot of people. Back then, in my generation, there was just 1,000 different actors all vying for the same part. And I knew most of them. And would see them on interviews and schmooze with them, and we would all be friends. I didn't know John Savage, but I sure liked his work from The Deer Hunter and other things. So I would hope that they saw my work on Family or elsewhere and decided that, this guy could do this show. This guy could do this movie.
Absolutely. That's more than likely what happened. They're like, "He's really good. He's
My
intense."
Yes, sir. My only lament is now still that I didn't shave my head for the part. There's a young guy coming home from the Navy on leave, Christmas leave, before he gets shipped out, and they wanted me to look more acceptable, I suppose, and less severe. And so they gave me a haircut, but I still had some hair left on my head there. But I would have shaved my head had I had the opportunity to. So anyway, that's my only regret.
The Gift, really fantastic. You mentioned what it was like working with James Broderick, of course, and you had some wonderful scenes on Family with one of my favorite female actors of all time, the underrated, very underrated Sada Thompson. I mean, she was so fantastic in everything she did, just so charming and warm and she played some roles too that would surprise people that were not necessarily like Kate Lawrence, and she nailed those as well. But as Kate Lawrence and as your mother on Family, there was a wonderful relationship that you had with her. What was it like also working with somebody as special as Sada Thompson?
Oh boy, she was the consummate actress. You know, she could do anything, Jim, and I mean anything. Uh, and yet she was off camera. She was this sort of giggly young girl. I loved making her laugh. And every morning when I would come into the makeup room, she'd be there. She got, she got there ahead of me. And she'd always be doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. She had to do that every morning with her first cup of coffee. And unfortunately, she smoked. We all smoked in those days, and her cigarette. And then when she was done with that, she'd put the paper down and she'd look at me and she'd start to giggle. I loved it. I loved her so dearly. And I don't know if she was laughing at me for the way I looked, or if she was laughing because she knew that I was going to make her laugh. But she was, as I said, a consummate actress. She'd come from the New York stage. She'd won a Tony Award for the play Twigs. She had not done a lot of film prior to doing Family. And so she was insecure of the way she looked, insecure of the way she sounded, insecure about what the camera saw, the lighting, the other actors, if she was going to fit in with the other actors. And of course, she looked great. She sounded great. She was great. She fit in with everyone just fabulously. And she became Mom. Again, it was an actor needing what the character needed. And Willie Lawrence needed Kate Lawrence. He needed that strong mother. And Gary Frank needed a strong mother as well. We got along famously.
Oh, yeah.
I miss
Yeah.
her so much.
I do too. She really was, she had a tender side that came through, and she had this uncanny ability to make facial expressions, to raise her eyebrow in a certain way, and to do certain things with her smile and with her eyes that didn't even require dialogue, certain looks that were, like, are you sure about that? Or are you kidding? Or uh, that were fantastic. If you just really watch and study her, not just as she's reciting the script, but just look at her facial reactions and what she could do with her eyes that sort of bring you right in. And I think there was one time, which was very rare on television, where she broke that fourth wall and she's having that scene with Meredith Baxter, and about Meredith Baxter sort of coming of age, and she had been dating the older gentleman and it broke up, and that's that kitchen scene, and they're tearing up, and Nancy, played by Meredith Baxter, reaches over to her and says, you're all right. And Sada says, that's what they all say. Uh, Go get my grandson. I need a baby to hold. And she leans back in the chair and she looks at the camera, at us for a minute. And she goes, because it was such an intense scene, and then goes like that. That was fantastic. That was brilliant acting.
Yes. Sada had a way, if she could raise an eyebrow and it would speak volumes. And you knew exactly what she was saying and what she meant. Or she could purse her lips and you know exactly what she was saying, what she meant. She had a wonderful saying. She would say, "I'll say the world," and that's when she would throw up her hands or say, "I'll say the world."
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that. I think.
Lots of tea served in that house too. When things were rough, the tea kettle went on.
Oh yes, a lot of tea. You're absolutely right.
You had an opportunity to also film on the grounds of that beautiful home there in Pasadena. They had the guest house, they had the garage, and the external shots as well. Um, I remember that one scene when you weren't having a good time handling the passing of Hattie, and Doug wants you to take the car keys and take Hattie to the store, what have you, and you didn't want to do it. You ran out of the house onto the lawn, and Doug comes out of the house as well. And you always had to do it strategically too, because the inside of the house was shot on the lot, but the outside, you really used a great deal of that neighborhood, that street, the neighboring houses, and that house as well. What was that like? And did you, people probably wonder, did you ever get a chance, you and the other cast, to meet and or mingle with the real homeowners who own that beautiful house in Pasadena?
Well, you're right. That house became a character in itself, unto itself. The front yard, the backyard, uh, they were had their own personalities, and we didn't mingle with the owners. They very nicely and discreetly removed themselves from the house when we were shooting there because we would be running cables everywhere, and so they went someplace else for the most part while we were there shooting. And as you mentioned, all the interior work was done on stage. However, in the pilot, we used the actual interior of the house. But interestingly, the show takes place in Pasadena, and the house is in Pasadena. Now, most of the time, that's always fudged, and you'll find a house someplace that matches what the script says, and it could be in Sherman Oaks, a community, small suburb near here, and they would say that it's Philadelphia, or it's someplace in New York, a suburb of Manhattan, and but we were actually in Pasadena in a house, a great house that was supposed to be in Pasadena in the show. It's a large house. It hasn't changed that much, that drastically.
No.
I know that
Yeah.
they shoot things there.
Yeah.
And,
I think they removed what was great about shooting there is because you guys there was a fence, there were shrubs, and there were big trees. So you could be, sort of in a little quiet enclave on the front lawn doing scenes and not necessarily be bothered because they had the fence, they had the gate and everything. I believe the fence is removed, the shrubs are removed, and a couple of the trees. So the house is much more exposed, but and I think it's sort of like a light green now. As I was saying, when I was on a television shoot in my TV work, I had some extra time and I took the rental car and I said, I got to go to the house where family was shot. And I want to see that beautiful neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood where that house is, and really a beautiful manicured lawns. And it's just really nice. And, also the Brady Bunch house, because that was being redone for HGTV and they did a spectacular job with that as well. But that house was also, I believe, the family house was used in movies and a lot of other things in addition to family, which is quite fascinating. But
yes.
yeah, it still looks absolutely beautiful. I think it was recently sold too.
Oh,
Yeah, I wonder what we feel like to be in a house, to live in a house that was used on iconic TV shows. I would imagine, you'd probably get some people knocking on the door. Can
yeah.
I see inside? And it was really cool. The way they designed the set when it was on the lot for all of you, it sort of matched what you would envision the inside would look like. It was brilliantly done, the design, the set design and everything with family, and the
Yeah.
use of all these multiple rooms too. You used, like, almost every room in that house, or it was perceived as the house, which is fantastic. Uh, you've, like I said, graced us with a lot of other things too. I mean, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, you're in that as well. How did that opportunity come your way?
How did that opportunity? Well, they offered me the job, and I hadn't really watched this particular show, this series. I had watched the original Star Trek, but all the spin-offs I wasn't familiar with. And when I got the job, I thought, well, I'll be wearing a big disguise and look like an alien and so forth. And instead of that, I mean, I spent 3 hours in makeup every day, but I didn't have to wear one of those large masks and head coverings and so forth and so on. So that was nice, not to have to sweat in a suit of some kind. And I did that show, and I remember I had a scene where I had to speak and say all of these crazy things that only the characters in the show would understand. And of course, not having watched the show, I didn't understand any of these things, and yet still I had to say them. And I tell you, Jim, I had the hardest time trying to make all that stuff make sense. I was speaking in, I don't know what the particular alien language was, but um, it was quite hard and quite challenging. And there I am, yeah, there I am with my spots and my yeah,
Mhm.
all over my body. I had these spots.
And a
So
look of intensity, the
yeah,
famed Gary Frank intensity, exactly.
yeah.
Also intense in, Enemy Territory here with Ray Parker Jr. That was great to be in that, huh?
Well, yeah. Again, we shot in New York, in the Alphabet Streets,
Yep,
and
mhm.
we uh, we shot it in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, and it was very fast, very quick. Uh, I love doing the film. I love doing something that wasn't television, and this certainly wasn't television. Interestingly, I got a call earlier this year, from someone who was back east, actually in Brooklyn, and asking me if I would do an interview for Enemy Territory. And I said, well, sure. That was a long time ago. I don't know if you want me to say anything. And she said, well, yeah, we're re-releasing the film on DVD. I thought, oh my,
Wow.
this is a 40-year-old film,
Yeah.
and they want to re-release it on. Well, that's something. Of course, I'll do this interview. And lo and behold, I got a copy just this last month of this re-released, remastered Enemy Territory. I haven't looked at it yet, but and I did an interview on it, talking about doing the movie, but working with those
Mm,
wonderful actors again, undiscovered actors, fabulous tall guy Tony Todd,
mhm.
on to become a movie star in horror films. He was in that show, in that movie, and so there were wonderful people again. I was blessed to be in something where there was terrific actors, serious actors, I must say, and it was serious material, and had a ball, had a great time.
You had a wonderful role too in Hill Street Blues that you took on, which was fantastic. Another iconic series, of course, on NBC. Some of the cast not with us anymore, but the legend lives on. That was terrific taking on that role too, huh?
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I really wanted to play this guy. Jerry Gaffney was the character's name. And as I recall, I had gone in and read for them, and then read again for them before I got the job. And I All I had to do, of course, was sit in a wheelchair. That's I had more to do than that, but I sat in this wheelchair and learned how not to walk, not to be able to walk, which was an interesting experience for me. One of the technical advisors on the show was a fellow who was confined to a wheelchair, and he taught me so much about what life was like without the use of your limbs. And he could do anything with that chair. He taught me how to do wheelies with the chair, how to make hairpin turns. Uh, he was so good, and he was such a help to me on doing that show. But again, it was an intense character. It was an angry guy, and I think my intensity and my anger fed the character, fueled the character, and informed the character. So I was plenty of both those things, intense and angry. Angry because people would be parking in handicapped parking spots who shouldn't be there. And because they did, he would take out a can of spray paint and spray their cars as retribution. So it was great. And then I got involved, of course, with the Hill Street Blues cops and had a great time. Bruce White was a wonderful, played Animal in the show, and Dan Trevante and Veronica Hamill, who I had a crush on, and Charlie Hayden, and all of them were just terrific to me. Great actors, terrific to be around. Great show, prestigious show to do. I'm so grateful and privileged to have done it.
So many great things you've been a part of. You were in Under Suspicion, Death in Small Doses, a couple of episodes of Silk Stockings, Untamed Love, LA Law, episode of that as well, Prison of Secrets, Pacific Blue, Long Lost Love, as well as House of Frankenstein back in 97, 2 episodes of that, Profiler, Like Father, Like Santa, Brimstone, Vic, which was a short, and also How to Have a Happy Marriage, which was a short, and you were a narrator in that, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I was.
Yeah.
It's tough to
Do
remember.
you a lot of people have gone into the world of voiceovers for video games, animated characters, and other narrations. Have you entered that world of voiceover work, Gary?
I tried, Jim. I had an agent for it, and she sent me out all the time, and nobody wanted me. So I got the message that my voice just wasn't what they wanted, and I left the agency and with my tail between my legs, and I never had an opportunity to do any voiceover work. I did do one. I'm sorry, forgive me. I did the voiceover for a character in Batman, the animated series, and
That's right.
I did that show, and I enjoyed it very much. I liked doing that, and I would have hoped that they liked me doing it as well, but I never got asked back. And
You
so
know,
I was just, it's one of those things that happens in the business, you
well,
know.
never say never. You never know, anybody could be considering and bringing you in. Did you ever work with, she was just on last week and she was a breath of fresh air too. Fabulous actress, great person. And she was Catwoman in Batman, the animated series, Adrienne Barbeau.
You know, I never got a chance to work with her. I loved her. There's another crush that I had on Adrienne Barbeau, and I think she was married to John Carpenter for a while. And
Yes. Yep.
she was a wonderful actress, beautiful, beautiful. I don't believe that I worked with her on that Batman episode either. I don't think she was in that particular story, but I never had the privilege of working with her, Jim, much to my dismay. But again, I sure had a crush on her. Sure did.
Well, you met the love of your life, with family, the wonderful and super talented Carol Newman, whose brother is a prolific musician and singer, songwriter, everything. Randy Newman, a lot of talent in the Newman family for sure.
Yeah.
Um, How did you guys meet? Was it on the set of Family or just before Family? Because people, when they were watching it, or even if they watching the reruns, because you're playing young Willie, you were playing, of course, a little bit younger than the actual age and doing it brilliantly. Wait, he's married? You probably got a lot of fan mail from all of the folks who were hoping that Willie slash Gary was single, seeing you, having all of those relationships on Family with all those beautiful women. And then they look in the TV guide or the papers. Well, actually, Gary Frank is very happily married, but he is still Willie Lawrence.
Yeah. Actually, it's cousin Randy Newman. And
Cousin, that's right. Cousin. Yes.
all the cousins are musicians. Thomas Newman and David Newman and
Unbelievable.
Joey Newman, and they're the Carol's father and uncle were also famous composers. Lionel Newman, her father, and Alfred Newman, her uncle. And there are so many Academy Awards in their family that I can't count. But Carol and I met on the set. We began dating on June 24th, 1976, and we were married August 21st, 1976. So it was just under 2 months that we were serious about each other before we got married, and that was almost 50 years ago. And then there's a lot
That's
of
beautiful.
history.
And that's just before Family hits the airwaves, right?
It was during the
First season?
it was, yes, the very first season.
Because it took a while for Family to get on too, right? It was lengthy. There were some battles. There was, the network, and you have Aaron Spelling and everybody involved. It wasn't just, here's this great script, put it on. It took a while, and all of you were waiting to see what happens, and thank God it happened. But there was a lot of back and forth in the beginning, right?
There sure was. We did the pilot in March of 1975, and we waited 9 months before we heard that we were going to be picked up for just 5 episodes. It would be 6 with the pilot. And so we thought, well, that's better than nothing. And we had an opportunity to prove ourselves. We could get an audience. We could show everybody what we could do. And so 9 months after the fact, after shooting the pilot, we got picked up. We went back to work in, I think it was either late December or early January of 1976. And we shot the next 5 episodes. And then we waited around again until we were picked up for our second season, which was our first full season of 22 episodes. And in between doing those 5 episodes and the first full season hitting the airwaves is when Carol and I were married. June 24th of 1976, there was an affiliates meeting here in Los Angeles at the Century Plaza Hotel. And an affiliates meeting is where all the owners and managers of all the stations across the country that are affiliated with ABC come to preview the new season and meet actors and actresses from the shows. Well, that's what June 24th of 1976 was. And I had gone to this event, and no one else in the cast. Oh no, Kristy was there as well, but we didn't go together. And I walked into this ballroom at the Century Plaza Hotel, and I didn't know anyone, of course. And yet across the room, I saw Carol talking with someone, and I said, well, oh, this is terrific. At least I can speak with her, talk with her. And I made my way across the ballroom floor. And the first thing I said when I came up to Carol, I said, will you marry me? And she turned to me, and she going along with the joke, she said, sure, I'll marry you. And unbeknownst to us, the wife of one of the affiliates managers overheard us. And somehow word got to Fred Pierce, who was president of the network at the time, that Gary Frank and Carol Newman became engaged at the event. And at the end of the evening, Fred came on stage and said, "Oh, by the way, I want to announce that Gary Frank and Carol Newman have become engaged, and we want to wish them all the best." And the spotlight came down on the two of us. We were standing together, and everyone turned to us, and they were clapping and applause. And we thought, "Oh my God, how are we going to get out of this one?" I mean, the next day, I was going to have to call up Fred Pierce, the head of the network, and apologize to him. I was going to have to apologize to Aaron Spelling and to Leonard Goldberg, excuse me, and Mike Nichols. And I thought, this is not so good. And Carol was afraid she might lose her job because of this practical joke that I pulled. And so I escorted Carol to her car. Thought we should get out of there fast while the event was still going on and everyone was inside. So I took her to her car, and we sat inside her car and we started talking. And we talked for 3 hours. And by the end of the 3 hours, we were very close. We were just had gotten to know each other in a more intimate way. And the next day, I thought to myself, well, you know, I really want to see Carol again socially. I want to go out on a date with this woman. And I went into the studio. I had a day off, and I went into the studio and marched into her office. And I said, "Listen, I'd sure like to see you again. Would you ever like to go on a date with me?" Those words. And she looked up and she said, "Well, yes, I would." And I said, "Okay, when?" And she said, "Well, what about tonight?" And from that night forward, Jim, we were inseparable. We saw each other every night, on the weekends, and I managed to propose to her on August 6th or 7th, and we decided that and she said yes, she accepted, and we decided to get married as soon as we could, which is why we were married just 2 weeks later.
Wow.
A whirlwind romance, but again, as I said, it's lasted almost 50 years.
That's amazing. You have a beautiful daughter as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I could only imagine, when the cast, Sada and James and the rest, they must have been so happy for you guys too.
Oh yes, it was a surprise. No one knew that we'd been seeing each other. Even we kept it very discreet.
Right. Exactly. Now, was there any, sometimes it's like when back then it was a different world where if a female actress was pregnant, they'd have to work around that, or sometimes they'd even write that person off the show and replace them and all of that. Was there any concern at all? Because Willie was so beloved by everybody, especially the female fans and the characters that he dated on the series, that was going to play in at all, or it was just like, it's fine.
Yes, it was fine. It really was fine. We told the crew and the cast, and they were all elated for us. They were surprised because, as I said, we didn't tell anyone that we had been seeing each other. Kept it very discreet. We surprised Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg and Mike Nichols, and they were elated for us as well. And and we had a very small wedding. We were married at our producers, Nigel and Carol McKean's house in the Hollywood Hills. We had a few people from the show there. Kristy was there, Jimmy was there, and Sada was there, and a couple of our directors were there. But there was only a handful of people, and we were married on a I can't remember if it was a Saturday or a Sunday, but we had to go back to work on the following Monday, and there was no honeymoon. There was nothing like that. We had managed to move into an apartment the prior week that we had at the beach, and so we went home from the wedding and got ready for the next day's work.
That's it.
Life as usual, yeah.
True professionals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You mentioned Kristy McNichol, and there was a wonderful relationship that Willie and Buddy had. You seem to be able to get Buddy. You seem to be able to understand Buddy, and they said that there were similarities between Buddy and Kate. They had an understanding as well because there was a similar nature between. But there was wonderful moments that you had with Kristy McNichol, the actress, and Buddy Lawrence, the sister, and of course, both taking home Emmys for your outstanding performances on the series. What was it like working with Kristy McNichol, the actress, of course, and Buddy Lawrence, the beloved character on the series? You could see the affection that you had, and of course, then Quinn Cummings was brought in as well. Quinn Cummings, but there was something really special between you and Kristy, Willie and Buddy, that was evident throughout the series.
Yeah. Well, I loved her. I still do, and I adored her, and still do as well. Uh, we had a wonderful relationship aside from our characters. I was like a big brother to her, even though she had a big brother. I was the biggest brother, and she so she and I got along famously in the show and outside of the show. Again, Jim, it's that axiom of actors needing the same thing that the characters do. Kristy needed a family that she could rely on, that she could count on, that she could be part of and be vulnerable in. And she needed a brother she could be vulnerable with as well and count on. And Willie Lawrence was that to Buddy Lawrence, and Gary Frank was that, I hope, to Kristy McNichol. She was gifted beyond her years, of course, things that she knew that you couldn't teach. And she and Sada did have a remarkable relationship. They were both impish, and I think they recognized that in each other and appreciated that quality. They had an impish sense of humor, and they loved, again, laughing together, making each other laugh. And but as serious as Sada was coming to work every day and approaching the work, so was Chris. Kristy would come every day to the set carrying a briefcase with her script inside there, and
Wow.
God knows what else. But she was so serious about it, she came to work with a briefcase.
Wow.
It was remarkable. I use that word a lot, but that's the truth of it. She was a remarkable kid and a remarkable adult now still, of course.
Yes, really ahead of her time in so many ways and levels, and really extraordinary. And then, of course, Queen Cummings was brought in, and that added a new dynamic to the series as well, right?
Yes, it did. She had just done The Goodbye Girl,
Yeah,
nominated for an Academy Award.
incredible.
And she was very much in demand. And we were so privileged to have her come and join us and join the Lawrence family. I think she had done an episode prior to that, prior to joining us permanently. And I can't recall what it was. Maybe she played the same character. But she was also a very serious young actress, very serious about the work. And she was so witty and so smart, and smarter than me, for sure, more intelligent than I was or am, and so talented. She had a wit about her that she didn't get to show as much in the show as she did off camera. But I love Quinn. Haven't seen her, talk with her in a long time, but I loved her.
She was terrific. And again, you guys welcomed her. Wonderful episodes of when, of course, she was meeting head on that her parents had been killed in the car accident, and she wanted to take off on the train, and James, Doug Lawrence, finds her in the train station, and she didn't want to be a part of Christmas. and you had some great Christmases at the Lawrence house, but that really special episode where she was dealing with the loss really head on of her parents, and then realizing that Kate was a friend of her parents, and she ended up staying with the family. And you
Mhm.
also had a wonderful, since it is holiday time, you had that wonderful Thanksgiving episode with Henry Fonda playing your grandfather.
Yeah.
And he was, there was some senility coming in. That was a beautiful episode. I mean, you had some amazing, well known veteran actors and actresses who stopped by the Lawrence home as well over the years, too, huh?
Yes, we did. We had a different grandfather, James, Doug Lawrence's father, a different grandfather every season, and Henry was our last, and he was, oh my, what a huge honor and privilege to have worked with Henry Fonda, and he and I got along famously. He was absolutely accessible, friendly, congenial, and he was one of the great actors of the world, in the world, and uh, I grew up watching him as well, and loved him, and watching his family follow in his footsteps, Jane and Peter, and Henry Henry Fonda did our show. And not only that, but Joanne Woodward directed the episode. It was more than you can ask for. Henry and Joanne. Joanne had, who was Paul Newman's wife and a
Right.
magnificent actress. She was a fan of the show, and she got in touch with Aaron Spelling and said, "Boy, would I like to direct one." And so, lo and behold, the arrangements were made, and Joanne Woodward came to direct a family episode. And we were searching for another grandfather to play Doug's dad. And we had been through everybody in town by that time. And Joanne said, "Well, I have an idea. Let me make a couple calls." And so one of the calls she made was to Henry.
Mm.
I asked him if he would like to play the part of the grandfather. He was a fan of the show as well. Lo and behold, he was a fan. So he said yes immediately. And so there we were with Henry Fonda in the cast,
Mm.
Joanne Woodward behind the camera, and us just standing there with our jaws dropped
Mm.
at these great talents that came to work with us. We had no
Many.
idea that we were attractive to anyone else, or that the show resonated the way that it did across the country. And
It still does. When I bring it up, people say it sort of triggers something. People will say that's one of my favorite series that was so well written. It was appointment viewing. We miss it. We wish it went longer. We wish that they would release all of the episodes on the DVDs. And now you can sometimes see it. I think it's on Tubi now. The entire series you can see on Tubi. If you go onto your cable and go just put in Tubi, the whole series is there from start to finish, and you can really see it and experience it. But do you have one or two episodes that are your personal favorites, whether you were in them or not, Gary?
I do. Of course, the two-parter when I was married and then lost my wife. That's certainly one of my favorites. Two of my favorite episodes. The episode I spoke of earlier about Doug going blind temporarily is one of my favorite episodes. There is an episode where Kate has a cancer scare. Monday is forever, and it just the time span is over a weekend. Kate waiting to see the results, hear what the results of a test were, a biopsy of her one of her breasts, and to see if she had cancer or not. Fortunately, she didn't, and but it was of this talk about intensity. That particular episode was intense for sure. Um, uh,
You were dealing with topics kind of like Norman Lear was with his series, but with the use of comedy. You were dealing with topics that people were experiencing in their own lives too. Buddy with her, first kiss, and the wonderful storylines you've had, and Kate and everybody having their individual storylines. But this relationship with you and Doug, and the time when you wanted to go off with, oh, what was the actress, the famous actress, and you were in love with her, and she was a whirlwind and swept you off your feet, but then she decided the relationship wasn't going to work, but you were going to miss Christmas. And I believe Doug had what might have been a heart attack, or they thought it was a heart attack, and he falls down in front of the tree, and very incredible episodes, but it just really beautifully done, and some of the scenes were so like intense, like you say. That's why I think it was perfect. But I remember that episode. I can't think of the actress, but she's a well-known actress.
Yes,
And
Elizabeth Ashley.
Elizabeth Ashley, you were enamored with her, and we're
Yeah,
going to go off at Christmas time. And the Lawrences have their tradition. Doug has his tradition of Christmas and the tree and putting the star on top and the eggnog and all. And you were going to shake it up a bit and go off with her, which was a great father-son dynamic that you both handled beautifully.
thank you. Yeah, that was a great episode to do too. I mean, imagine it, Jim. There was this 18, 19-year-old kid that wanted to go off with a 35, 36-year-old woman, twice his age. And had it not been for the attitude of Doug's and Kate's, he probably would have. And who knows what would have happened. But that's, again, the writing, the writers, Carol Evan McKeon, who wrote so many of the episodes and certainly rewrote most every one of the episodes. The writing was so good, and the ideas were so intriguing that we had a ball going from one episode to the next, because it was a different adventure every time. But Elizabeth Ashley was a real kick.
Elizabeth Ashley.
Yeah, I remember that doing that show. Yes, she was a real broad,
Incredible, right? Absolutely. And you sure did give Kate's yellow, 1976 Ford Pinto a workout too, huh?
Yeah.
That wagon.
Oh yes. Yeah. We got a lot of comments about, if he's such a successful lawyer, Doug,
Why does he have a Pinto wagon?
And the reason was that the show had a tie-in with Ford.
It did, right?
It had a tie-in with Ford Motor Company, and would use all Ford cars in his shows.
He had a Maverick, and Kate had the Ford Pinto wagon. But
Right.
in the miniseries, he had a bigger car, and I think you drove it once. It was like a Gran Torino or LTD or something. It was
Something like that.
a
Yes.
bigger vehicle.
Yes.
I want to mention too, because I do want to talk a little bit more about this incredible book that is going to be coming out, folks. And it's been a labor of love for Gary to open up about his life in it. Enola Gay, The Men, The Mission, and The Atomic Bomb. That was a very special role for you as the major in that, huh?
Yes. I played this character, a real life character by the name of Tom Farabee. And Tom Farabee was the bombardier on the Enola Gay, the airplane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. And I was the guy who said, "Bombs away." Well, talk about import and moments filled with great intensity. That was one of the great intense moments in my acting career. To be the bombardier who dropped the first atomic bomb. Well, it was quite something. Now it was a a 3-hour television special, as I remember, a special movie. And the cast was so wonderful. We had Patrick Duffy from Dallas. We had Gregory Harrison from Trapper John. We had Robert Pine from Chips. We had Billy Crystal from Soap. We had all these magnificent actors in the show. It was, and we all became a team. The crew of the Enola Gay, and I got along famously with all of those guys, and I hope they got along with me too. But Patrick was magnificent. Gregory Harrison was fabulous. Billy and I became very close doing that. I wish we'd stayed close, but we didn't, and that's my fault. But Billy and I got very close doing that movie. And funniest man I will ever know in my life. Funniest human being I have ever been around. And it was his first dramatic role, I believe. And he was terrific. He rose to the occasion and was just terrific in that.
Yeah.
Bob Pine. And so we did it. We were the crew of the Enola Gay, named after Patrick Duffy, his character's mother. Enola Gay was her name.
That's right.
Yeah.
You and I were chatting before we went on about the profound loss of Rob Reiner and his incredible wife. Did you get a chance to commiserate with Rob, work with Rob, or know Rob through the years and his amazing work?
I didn't work with Rob. Many, many, many years ago when I was first starting out, and so was he, we met on an interview. Not that we were going up for the same part, but we were on this interview together, and we said hello, and we talked for a little bit, and I got the impression he was just a lovely guy, a very smart man, a very personable guy, accessible. And very shortly thereafter, he got All in the Family, and went on from there. I mean, and very shortly after that too, I got Sons and Daughters, the pilot for it, senior year. Excuse me. And I wish that he and I had worked together. I know that he was a fabulous actor, and I understand that he was a magnificent director as well. And I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know that good people did good things. Good people do good things, and he was certainly a good person. And it is tragic in all ways that he and his lovely wife passed in that fashion. Some things in life are not fair, and that's certainly one that is not fair at all. Not at all. To lose that kind of talent, to lose that kind of drive and energy and goodness in the world is just not fair. Not okay.
Beautifully said, and so very, very true, Gary. Absolutely. And we in our thoughts forever. You being very open about your life and sharing so much in this memoir. How long did it take you to write it? And was it something you always wanted to do, or did others spur you on? And did you know this is the right time? And what was that writing process like? Because again, you're very open about your life and your experiences, which can be very inspiring to others along the way.
Well, it took me almost 3 years to write, because at the beginning I didn't know what I was writing. I didn't know if it was going to be a memoir, a novel, or what it ultimately turned out to be is a journal chronicling my life from my earliest beginnings. And it's not where it actually begins in the book, but it moves very quickly back to my very beginnings in the early 50s. It was a tough thing to write, Jim. Talk about blue-collar jobs. You sit in a chair staring at an empty screen, sweating bullets and sweating blood, truly, trying to think of something to write and doing it in a way that does justice to the moment, just does justice to the sentence. That's why my book is titled Up From Down, and it's taken from a line in the book at a time when I didn't know the difference between left and right, backwards and forwards, nor up from down. By the end of the book, I had learned what was up from down. And it's about my journey from childhood through my career to the present, when I'm much wiser about myself. Maybe not the world, but I'm much wiser about myself. And it took something that happened. I won't go into it because it's in the book. It took something traumatic that happened when I was 67 years old. And better late than never, I guess, because it led me to sobriety. It led me to be a more open and honest person with the world, with myself. And I never believed in keeping secrets. I don't like keeping secrets at all, because I think that it's too hard to do. It's too hard to keep a secret, and I think it does something to oneself. It's trying so hard to keep something away from the rest of the world or someone else. So with that notion in mind, I decided to write this book, to say things out loud on the page, so that others could hear me, would hear me, and I would hear myself. And I would say things that I hadn't said before about me, about myself, things that I was not quick to share with anyone. As I talked about here earlier, I come from a very dysfunctional family, and I talk about that. I write about it. I write about it a lot, and how my life changed over the course of years. Being married to Carol, it certainly changed my life. Learning from Carol, learning from my daughter, and then, but cultivating habits that were really not conducive to being a happy guy. I drank heavily, I smoked heavily, and it ultimately got the best of me. It got the best of me, which led me to doing something in 2017 that changed my life completely. Turned everything around. And as I say, better late than never, because I could have continued on and probably died from all my vices, but I didn't. I managed to vanquish those things and have lived to tell the tale. And that's what I do in the book. I tell the tale.
That is so beautiful, Gary, and we're so glad that happened on 2017. I believe it was like January 11th, and we won't give it all away because it'll be in the book, but a very hard situation early, like you said, childhood, and then a lot of abuse and a lot of doubting yourself. Amazing that you were able to, in those early years, have a really terrific career and to be a part of our lives on television, in movies, and with these brilliant award-winning roles, and do everything you had to do while behind the scenes you were dealing with what you were dealing with, and the balancing act. Couple of beautiful things that came into your life, of course, Carol, the wonderful loving support of the cast of family with Sada and James, and being surrounded with that kind of love and warmth and understanding. Were they all aware of your struggles, meaning Sada, James, and others, or was it something you were able to keep even from them?
No, they weren't aware. And again, those were secrets that just ate at my soul. I didn't tell anyone those things. Maybe it was evident in the work that I did, perhaps. The intensity, as we've talked about before, the anger, as I've mentioned before. But no, and that's one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, but keeping those secrets are why I don't believe in keeping them anymore. That's why I one of the reasons I wrote the book. uh, to shout, to scream what my truth is, what my facts are, and whether people love me or hate me at the end of it, I I, uh, I don't know what people's reaction will be, but I had to do it. I just had to do it. It wasn't enough for my wife to know. It wasn't enough for my daughter to know, and she didn't know everything. But I have not. I didn't censor myself at all in this book, and I hope
But
people read it.
I think they're going to love you more because not everybody, um, even though you did your best for the sake of the career as well, to not necessarily, reveal any of that, because of course the tabloid world would run with that, and that can affect things career wise. But just it was a struggle you were dealing with on your own or trying to navigate on your own to the best of your ability. The fact that here you are, this iconic person from the world of television and film that people have always admired and respected and enjoyed, saying, "Look, we're living in the world of magic, and we provide things that take you away from your troubles, your trials and tribulations. So if you enjoyed me on Family and in movies and other TV series and other things I've had the opportunity to be a part of, where I gave it my all and then some, I am honored and touched by that. Now, here's another part of me that I'm sharing with you, which is while I was doing that, I was dealing with my own personal demons. And I'm hoping that to show you the balance that I'm real, as much as I was Willie Lawrence and everything else, I'm a real person. I dealt with things. I have a beautiful life and home and family now, worked for all of that and to maintain it. But if my story, seeing this figure on television and film, inspires you
Mm.
to get help, you to maybe believe in yourself more, you to not let things that have happened throughout your life control and operate you forever, and you hopefully have your epiphany moment as well. The legacy, the impact you're leaving, in addition to this extraordinary career and all these wonderful moments and scenes and years and decades of work on TV and film, is a legacy and an impact that will far exceed it all. You will be touching the lives of so many people because you're real and you're authentic. You have the intensity, and you've shared it on screen, but now you're opening up your heart and your soul to the general public, throwing it out there, see where it lands. Some people may know you from television and film and Willie and all and say, "Oh, wow, real? I didn't realize." But I think what is going to happen is it's going to bring them closer to you to say, not only was he great in these roles, but he's a great guy and he cares and he's the real deal. And here he is opening up about his own life. And that's going to touch a lot of people, those who maybe aren't going through it, just want to read it because they admire you, but others who are going through things in their life who will find it very inspiring and empowering that Gary Frank wrote this story about his life in such an open way, not the typical Hollywood way, not the polished way that everything has that beautiful, ending all the time, though you have a wonderful result of it all with the epiphany that happened. But it's something that is just it's Gary Frank. It's what Willie was upstairs typing all the time on those episodes. And sometimes we never saw the result of what was being typed. And now, all these years later, Willie's book is here through Gary. It's incredible, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. Indeed, it is Willie's book. It is the book that he had been writing and would have written probably for the rest of his life. Uh, you're very kind. I hope people would read it and find a certain inspiration, a certain willingness to change at any age. We're all changing. We're all becoming ourselves every day in every way. And unless we stunt our growth through various vices, as I did, God only knows I did. And it took the love of my wife, my daughter, and my family to pull me out of the abyss. And it was forgiveness is one of the great themes of my book, that they forgave me, just as I forgave my parents. I had to forgive them ultimately, rather than blame them. If I hadn't forgiven them, then I would have been poisoned by the experience instead of finding a certain closure to it that I could accept and live with. I forgave them. My family forgave me. And now I embrace them every day, every moment of every day. And thank God that they're here for me. And, you know, Jim, and that I am here for them, because I wasn't for so many years. I wasn't here. I wasn't present for my family. Now I wouldn't be anyplace else.
It's a beautiful spot to be. It's become a full circle experience and really something amazing. Gary, this was a tremendous conversation. We have conversations here, not interviews, and you've been so gracious with your time, your wit, and your wisdom, taking us back in time to those precious moments on TV and film, but also being so open and real about your life. And I've always admired your work. I've always thought that you were somebody that really did have the intensity, give 110%, and really took it all seriously and still do. And I wish you nothing but continued blessing and joy. When the book is physically there, come back on. We can look at it and show it again. You always have a place here. I said last time we would keep the porch light on for you, Gary. And you are welcome back here on the Jim Masters Show anytime. And I wish you and the family continued blessing and joy. And this was a great experience. And I know our viewers have been enjoying it. They've been sending their love and saying they've enjoyed your work all these years. They want to get the book. And they've always admired and respected you and your work. And really great having you on the show, Willie.
I appreciate being here, Jim. I really do. I'm so grateful. And I would love to come back. I would love that.
I wish I lived across the street and I was Jimmy and we played baseball together, Willie and Jimmy. How cool would that be?
Oh,
but you were on the West Coast and I was on the East.
Oh, wow. That would be fabulous.
But here we are together.
Yes.
Gary Frank, you are wonderful. Congratulations on everything. And I'm so happy that everything has turned out this way. And now the book that Willie has been writing all those years upstairs in that bedroom is coming to fruition. Congratulations, my friend. You be well, the best to the family, and come see us again. And I truly hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you, Gary.
Oh my goodness, yes, Jim. Absolutely. It's, as I said, it's a privilege to be here. It's a pleasure and a privilege. So I'm very grateful for everything. You're the best.
The pleasure is all mine. You be well, and we'll see you again, and we'll look for that book soon, Gary, okay?
Thank you so much. Happy holidays, Jim.
You as well, to you and the family. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Gary Frank on the Jim Masters Show. Absolutely extraordinary. And thanks for joining us on this episode of the Jim Masters Show. Be well, everybody, and cheers.